Welcome back to the Mareverse, everybody. Mare Reynolds, aka Midnight Mare here, and yes, this is the jacket that Joel wore in The Last of Us Season 1 on HBO. But anyway, today I want to talk about two franchises that I historically love. One, an old one, Halo, and one, a new one in the making at least, Deadrop. So I've been revisiting Halo Infinite this week, a game that I have hundreds of hours in and think has always been super underrated in general. But playing it recently brought several discussion topics and thoughts to my mind as it pertains to Deadrop. It's hard for me to believe that this week marks the 20th anniversary of Halo 2, a game that in my mind helped shape modern gaming as we know it, launching things like Xbox Live, competitive multiplayer games on console, matchmaking in general by the way, and more. And to celebrate this, Halo Infinite introduced a playlist modeled after Halo 2, featuring a selection of Halo 2 maps remade in Halo Infinite's Forge mode with gameplay settings that mirror Halo 2 rather than more modern games like, Halo Infinite itself. It's almost like an old version of Halo. Sprint is disabled, clambering up ledges is disabled, and the sandbox feels in many ways like Halo 2's minus dual wielding. But anyway, how does this relate to Deadrop? Halo Infinite is a game that launched and made a ton of people happy, including myself. Virtually everyone was pleased with the look and feel of the gameplay experience of Halo Infinite at launch. But it quickly became apparent that developer 343 Industries did not come prepared with a content roadmap and plan to suit modern live service game standards. Seasons went on for too long without significant content updates like new maps, new modes, weapons, in-game events, battle passes, etc., and fans quickly became angry despite liking the core of the game. The irony is that the narrative quickly became focused on Halo Infinite launching without Forge, the user-generated content tool that had become a signature feature of Halo since Halo 3. Halo 3 introduced Forge and armed players in the community with the ability to create their own custom Halo experiences, maps, and more. Forge not only led to a ton of additional playable experiences and modes and maps that would drive Halo for years to come, but Theater Mode and other such features generated a ton of online content that just flat out promoted Halo. When old school Halo fans think about their classic memories, there's surely maps that Bungie created like Blood Gulch and Zanzibar and the Battle Rifle, all that type of stuff, but people also think about Red vs. Blue, Rocket Race, Griffball. Some of these things even became adopted as official Halo playlists and modes and content that some people don't even know started as user-generated content back in the day. So the argument became if Halo Infinite had Forge at launch, it wouldn't have run into the content gap issue that it did. The community would have supplemented 343's offerings with maps of its own, including remakes of the classic Halo maps, other custom modes, and kept everybody engaged in Halo Infinite, and it wouldn't have got caught in the cycle of drought that it did. And fast forward a bunch of years, and it basically can't be denied that Halo Infinite is being carried by Forge now that it's part of the game. We not only have a custom game browser so that Halo players, when they log in, can find and join open custom matches of any game at any time, but 343, or now Halo Studios, has been pushing a ton of Forge-made maps and modes into official matchmaking, whether it's playlists like this Halo 2-inspired LTM, Forge Falcon zombie-like mode, and more. While it's unfortunate that 343 dropped the ball with Infinite in general in many ways, and have now focused nearly all of their efforts on the next Halo games being developed on Unreal Engine 5, Forge and user-generated content is keeping Halo Infinite not only alive, but actually full of interesting and fun experiences for people who just like and want to play Halo. Forge Falcons just launched Helljumpers, which is essentially their take on Helldivers and the old ODST concept that a lot of people have been hoping for and asking for years, and they just went out and did it. So back to Deadrop. Halo Infinite and Halo in general is an example of why user-generated content is important. There are so few games in the history of video games that have successfully maintained a massive player base with just their own development resources. Fortnite is an example of perhaps the most successful live service behemoth in gaming history, but Epic Games has over 4,500 employees and receives a ton of supplementary revenue from Unreal Engine itself, and hypothetically the Epic Games Store outside of Fortnite. Epic is also a developer that voluntarily chose to cancel and ignore all of their creative projects with the exception of Fortnite. They are now a single game studio, with the exception of the studios that they purchased that make games like Rocket League and Fall Guys. Epic went all in on Fortnite because they could afford to. They had the money to. They had the resources to. They had the ability to pull off an insane amount of content that it does and execute all the collaborations that they achieve because they just have a ton of resources, both manpower and money. Again, thanks to Unreal Engine, all that stuff, not just Fortnite itself. Very few game studios in the world can do that. Bungie is known as a master of live service development thanks to Destiny 2, but it's spending more money than it's making, and we all know that Destiny's had plenty of struggles. By comparison, 343 is a small studio, and they're doing what they can do with Halo, and Midnight Society is even smaller. Even before the unfortunate layoffs at Midnight Society, they were working with, around 70 developers compared to Epic's 4,500? This is why user-generated content is so important. It's going to be virtually impossible for Midnight Society to match the content output of games like Fortnite, Valorant, or even Escape from Tarkov, as Battlestate has about 350 employees. Midnight Society is a new studio and still has a lot to do to eventually, hopefully, grow and increase the amount of resources that they have. But Deadrop is going to need user-generated content, _bold, need user-generated content of various forms to help it keep feeling fresh. This means everything from user-generated skins that keep people playing and always looking for the coolest, newest things out there, to playable experiences, so that when players log in, or they're just burnt out and looking for something new and fresh and different to cleanse their palates away from the normal VES mode, for whatever reason. Let's be honest, most people that play and enjoy Tarkov leave after a while and only come back after a wipe, right? Or some significant update. Don't you think Battlestate would rather keep players engaged in their game all the time? Of course they would, which is one of the reasons that they put out Tarkov Arena, hoping to introduce new players and also create a different experience with a different pace for the general Tarkov user base. So when you're feeling bored of Tarkov, the basic experience, you've got something else to play. That's the idea. There's been some strife within the Deadrop community, and some people have questioned why Midnight Society, in their mind, isn't focused on the main mode of the game, Vertical Extraction Shooter, or VES, which, please change this name, Midnight Society. This is a description of a mode, not a good name for a mode. The answer is Midnight Society is playing the long game. They have to. As we have established, there is almost no chance that Midnight Society, a very small studio, both before and after the layoffs, will be able to launch Deadrop with enough content and continued content to hook players long-term without supplementing the game's offerings with user-generated content. And again, this means skins that can be designed, obtained, traded, bought, and sold on an in-game marketplace, kind of like how Off the Grid is doing it right now, but without the actual user-generated aspect that Midnight Society is aiming for with Deadrop, which also generates revenue for the studio, by the way, which can then be reinvested into growing the studio and the franchise and the IP and creating more official Deadrop content. Midnight Society is working on building something that can last for 10 years, which is basically the gold standard in the industry right now. I know it's been a tough road at times for some of us, but we've been spoiled to have a front row seat at the development process. I really wish that more people who signed up to be founders and variants could appreciate that we signed up to watch and assist with the game's actual development from day zero. I feel like most people are acting like they just want something to play. They aren't interested in actual game development or providing feedback to facilitate that process. Testing weapon functionality to help get it right or offer feedback on map design, whatever. They just want to play something, and that's fine. Not everyone is interested in game development or wants to help test the game. They just want to play something for fun or competition or whatever, right? We've all got our own tastes. But as founders, that's what we signed up for. That's the game development process. We knew this at the beginning. It takes years to build a game that's ready for the spotlight. Hell, since we're talking about Halo and Halo Infinite, it took, 7 years to develop Halo Infinite, and it still launched without enough content, not enough maps, not enough weapons, not enough... People wanted a longer, more live service-like campaign. Forge wasn't there. And it got 7 years of development with a bigger studio than what Midnight Society has. The reality is that just building a fun game isn't enough these days. Midnight Society knows that, which is why tools like user-generated content are so important, and they have to be there. No questions asked. If VES came out tomorrow on all platforms and it's really great, that's only going to hold players for so long. We all know that that's the reality. It's been demonstrated time and time again. Very few games in history can actually hold players' attention for more than a few weeks, let alone a few years. Deadrop not only needs to be a killer experience on its own, it needs user-generated content. Whether it's to hold players' attention, keep creators and the community engaged and busy, generate revenue, no matter how you spin it, it's a must. And it blows my mind that there's people in the community who signed up to support this studio and the concept of the game who can't figure that out. If you don't want to play stuff like that, that's cool. Lord knows that for every great Halo Forge experience, there's 10 bad ones. And in Fortnite, it's even more exponential. There's probably one good UEFN map or experience for every 100 or 1,000 bad ones. But it's hard to imagine those games without those tools, those creator communities, the revenue generated from it, and so on. No one says you have to play anything other than what you want to play. You should always play what you want and not apologize for that. But I have a really hard time with people claiming that they don't see the value of user-generated content and even lashing out against it, when user-generated content has in many ways been the heart and soul of so many legendary gaming franchises and experiences in general. Halo, Fortnite, Warcraft 3 birthed Dota, Dota spawned auto chess, and then guess what? Team Fortress Tactics. Half-Life mods turned into Counter-Strike, which is now still to this day driven by user-generated content via its skin marketplace. Team Fortress started as a Quake mod. Team Fortress was looked at and became, Blizzard looked at it and turned, oh, let's make Overwatch. Kids are hooked on Roblox and Minecraft mods. The list goes on and on and on. So here we are. Long story short, Halo Infinite is a shining example of how user-generated content can literally carry a game even when things go bad, and how user-generated content is essentially a requirement for live service games if they are going to succeed these days. Everyone else keeps falling short, no matter what they do, and the industry is contracting and studios are only getting smaller as resources and money becomes more and more scarce. So yeah, studios need to think differently and they need to figure out different paths forward and figure out ways to do more with less. That's the reality that every studio out there is facing. So that's why 12am is building a game with user-generated content in mind from the get-go. It's that simple. It's smart and we just need to be patient. So for another short update for everything else Deadrop right now that I can think of, it seems that all efforts on Midnight Society's part are all in on preparing that next Founders Test build, which is VES, I know, the experience that virtually everybody wants to play, myself included. I can't wait to play it and stream it. But it's coming along, Midnight Society. Last we heard, it's getting closer and closer and closer. Maybe November, December is the time, and we'll all have some new cool stuff to play and share with the world. It's coming, guys, it's coming. And lastly, Midnight 2, my next Deadrop-inspired short film, is essentially finished. We're just awaiting a VFX pass from a talented individual in the Midnight Society community, by the way. It's about 27 minutes long, and we really can't wait to share our release plans and show you all what we worked on for about the past year. So stay tuned, and thank you to everybody who played in both the Two in the Barrel and Showdown tournaments hosted by myself and Viper UGC respectively. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next video. Mayor Reynolds out.
This video is sponsored by HumbleBundle.com, one of the best gaming stores on the internet. You can get games, software, all sorts of digital tools on this website at discounts, some of which are in bundles. So, you buy it, the more you buy, the less you pay kind of thing. If you use my link down in the description, not only will you get great games at great prices, but you'll also support my channel and content in the process. So check out Humble Bundle, and thanks for sponsoring us, guys.